I just think there could be more sensitivity taken into consideration, being that some women just weren't taught
No,
the right way, and
no,
men weren't taught
no,
the right way either. I
no,
think on either side there should
no,
be taken.
no, 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 no sensitivity, no consideration. You've had enough. It's our
I'm talking
turn.
about on either side though.
No, not on either side. It's our turn. You've had enough. It's like being thirsty, and we all outside running and drinking, and you sitting at the water fountain. Move your goddamn out of the way. I'm thirsty too. You've had 50 years. It's enough.
What about
Ladies,
the women who just weren't taught well?
not my problem. Not men's
True.
problem.
This
You've
is
had
true.
enough. See, what I keep asking is when are men going to be considered? And when it's time for men to be considered, then we all got to be considered. That's how this shit works. It's either black girl magic or we got to share. No, black boy magic, black men magic. Y'all had enough.
And I do believe
Consider
that.
the men. Consider the men.
Hello and welcome to BW London Podcast, another great show by Kevin Samuel. Although the focus was about him saying he's not gay, as usual, many other gems were dropped, and it was just an important show for many other reasons for me. And this black boy, black man magic, that was the key thing for me. In regards to Kevin Samuel's being gay, all it is as well, fundamentally the advice that he gives to others when they say how can we be a stronger black person and really push the agenda of black families, and his response is get into one, make a family. So naturally if he was doing the same, that would, people would prefer that, it would feel less hypocritical. But each to their own. I don't really care for that because the information he's given is pure and real. So yeah, in regards to the gems dropped last night, my one was the black boy is a black man magic. This is a real topic and something that we really need to talk about. And I 100% agree. No sensitivity, none. I'm dealing with my cousin, but I might as well call him my brother because he is more or less that. My brother, his baby mother, who's coming on to her second child now. She's part of the welfare system. She has the house and she's constantly kicking him out. The other day she called me, oh my God, he threw tea at me, he threw hot tea at me. And I knew the situation was going to be nothing that serious because I'm his main contact and his only support, while she goes around telling everybody all sorts of things. And naturally she was back with him by the end of the evening. It wasn't an abusive situation like she implied. In fact, she'd actually kicked one of the doors off the hinges and in anger he threw the tea that went by her foot. But it was just so interesting to hear her on the phone. And I was like, wow, look at what us women can do. Because I promise you, if she'd phoned my mum or his mum, they would have been on her side and talking about what a terrible person he is and an abuser. An abuser is a real thing. It's an ongoing thing. And these kind of little situations that women like to draw cards on it's so wrong. And it makes me so afraid for my sons. It really does. Afraid for my brother. When she was on the phone, she didn't expect the reaction that she got from me, which was a quite unbothered one because I knew what she was doing. But anyway, my point is this zero sensitivity is a real thing because the abuse, by putting women first and us black families having a matriarch, we're destroying our men. And we're not just destroying our men, we're making it, with that power, we've abused it in situations like these. The words toxic and abuse and stuff have been so brutally abused. And I'm telling you, it's like when you have an eating disorder or any other thing actually wrong with you, and claustrophobia, and you hear somebody else talk about it in a really flippant way. It's really upsetting, and you can see right through it because you can recognize true abuse, true health problems. You can recognize it in one another when you've experienced it.
Consider the men. That's what every other race does. The women consider the men first. In our community, we want the men to always be on the lookout for what's going on with women. Consider the women. Consider the women. No.
So when Kevin Samuels talks about families and putting boys first, wow, I'm going to tell you two stories that it's just so interesting to me now. So I deliver a lot of sessions at schools all over the UK, and occasionally I visit a Jewish school or Jewish schools. So I went to one about 6, 7, 8 years ago now. There was security on the door, so that in itself was different to what I'd ever experienced. Once I was in the classroom, the boys were not on their best behavior, and every time I tried to discipline them, the women would step in between, or it was just really weird. And I left there furious. In my opinion, at the time, I couldn't interact with the boy children that were really, really rude, because that's actually what I'm really good at. I'm good at disciplining children, but I wasn't even allowed to discipline these children. And it was just a different atmosphere, and one that I couldn't understand. And I remember that day saying, I hate my job. And I thought, how could I say that? I'd already at that time been doing it for a number of years. It's something I really enjoy doing. And I realized, okay, it was just that experience at that school, but I took it really badly. Right, let's move on now. Possibly, yeah. So 7 years. So about 7 years later, which was this year, I went to a campsite, and the campsite, I was there for 4 days delivering music sessions, and I kept describing it. My children were with me, and they described it. They said it's like being in another world. We couldn't put our hands on it. They also said everybody looks alike and dresses the same, their fashion, and it was just so interesting if they're coming from different parts of the UK. How is that? They also said everybody here is so confident, and they really like it. And we had a really good time down there. So when I got back and I received, I went on to Twitter to make links with the campsite and, share media and stuff. I realized it was a Jewish campsite. And I thought, how interesting, because I also had an incident there with a young boy who had been, was acting up really badly. And when I went to discipline him, it was almost like he was seeing through me, and a man stepped in and handled it. Now, it didn't make me angry like that last occasion. I was just like, whatever, I can't. But at this time, I'm quite schooled by Kevin Samuels, and I was actually quite grateful that the man stepped in and handled it. So I had a different attitude. But then I remembered the incidents from 7 years before, and I was like, my goodness, it's Jewish people, isn't it? They put their boys and their men first. So at the first school where I got in my feelings, and, I come from a matriarch, I have that way about me. That's all that was going on in that school. I wasn't allowed to speak to the men in that way because that's just not part of their culture. And there was no men present, so the women dealt with it however they chose to. And my anger even said a lot. But yeah, what a perfect example of a culture that puts their men first, and we all know they're on top. But it's a real thing, and it's true.
Not me, ma'am. It's what every other group does. They focus on the men because the men are the builders and the revenue producers. And in our community, we focus the resources on the women, the attention on the women, always about the women. And we need to focus it on the men. Giving the consideration to women has got us where we are. Last, broken, floundering. We need to put attention on the men, the boys. Forget the men. Forget the men who are your age. What about the boys? The ones under 18. What are we doing to give them? Where's Black Boy Magic? Where's all the resources for the how do you get a better Black community if you don't build and birth competitive Black men?
Right. I do.
If you have four children, three daughters and a son, and you can send one to college or for improved resource training and outcomes, who do you send?
So I've had an obsession for probably before my children were born that children need to get skills, because I recognized all over Europe that people have skills, and that's why in the UK we bring so much of the skill sets over to us, doctors, all of the major skills, engineering, science, we buy it all in. People come from abroad. That my hospital up the road in Ealing, every doctor in there is a Nigerian. Although they promote that the people from abroad come in to do the cleaning jobs and the basic jobs that they reckon the UK citizens won't do, that's a lie. It's actually the professional jobs, down to construction, which UK actually has a lot of skilled workers in. Because it's been populated by Polish people, they've been able to cut the price because they also have that skill in abundance. So I recognize that skills in other places, even across Europe, but Africa, just other places, they're more skill focused. Over here, kids do not start to learn skills until they're around 21. Now, anybody knows who's a mechanic, who does construction work, skill sets, you start learning at 15. The music skill that I have, I started at 12. The number of, you start to learn your skills early. So we spend a lot of times in high school, secondary school, we call it here, doing 9 to 10 subjects, and they don't turn it into a small set of skills like 3 or even 1, but that's at master level, until they're well in their 20s. It's too late, and this country is full of people without skills. So I've always recognized that about this country. Plus, when I went to Switzerland, I met some young people, 21 years old. They were roofers, skilled out, been learning since they were 15. So the system here is bad in that sense. The opportunities and apprenticeships, they are available here, but not in abundance. And I actually believe it's because America, the UK, we're like another state of America, and it's about being in the belly of the beast, that here, poverty and a different kind of sacrifice is made in the stomach here, the belly of the beast, because it makes no sense to me otherwise. Why wouldn't they want a country full of skilled people? Why do they prefer to have people on benefits? Welfare state is called in America. There has definitely been a preference for that. So, and it's affected us, and it's affected the black community most. So to make competitive men, skills is everything. And of course, men are the ones we should be thinking about for going university and getting the skills. I'm so grateful to have learned of Kevin Samuels at this crucial stage in having teenage boys and with their father not being present. I have a friend, a married friend of mine. We work together on a community charity board. And he keeps expressing that he just needs roughly 6 to 7 months, if not a year, for his wife to just give him the opportunity to go out there and do what he needs to do. He's a professional in the work that he does do in media. He's very well paid, but the pandemic had a real big hit on that. And she's in the beauty industry, and she's gone ahead and she works 12-hour days when she does it, and it's very inconvenient for him. He has to become a full-time father at those stages because they have 2 children. So he was talking about it in a Zoom call with a mixed board with men, women, and the women just kept stressing that she's got to do what she needs to do to keep her mental health together and blah blah blah. And then I sort of blurted out, but she'll be a much happier woman if he just goes ahead and does what he needs to do and make the money and stop going through the struggle. The struggle doesn't have to be here. And my God, I got daggers looking at me. And, well, she matters too. And, he kind of whispered, I do kind of need that time to do that. It was just a really interesting conversation, and how much the women were not on board with this. And it was all about supporting her, even though the point was made that he makes triple what she makes in one day that she might make in a week. But no, her mental health still came first. We've got this wrong. And the fact that I sat in that panel and me saying that caused it made the conversation get contentious. It was really odd, and I was being as nice as I possibly could be. But yeah, we are failing, and the solution is a big one, and Kevin did mention it.
We need to start taking resources from the women and giving them to the boys. Or else in order for that to happen, women must voluntarily give up preferential treatment. And that is not likely to happen.